Hope everyone is, first of all, hope everyone is well and healthy and had a great 4th weekend. Thank God we got a little rain yesterday. We needed it. Hopefully we'll get a little more after we get some pretty high temperatures here. But we'll get with that. We'll get right into the agenda. I'd like to propose the June 11th minutes for all for approval. Hopefully you've all had a chance to review those. Are there any comments or modifications or suggestions with respect to those minutes? Okay, if not, remember, if you're on mute, you have to come off mute, but I'd look for a vote to accept the minutes for June 11th for the Audit and Finance Committee meeting.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Second, thank you, Jeff. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. So at this point, we have the payment of the bills. Again, fairly limited script of bills. You can see the BST, EdNed, Spank Card, Hummels, ISD, our rental payment, MELEX, and then a couple of utility bills with NYSEG. So unless there's any questions on those, I wouldn't suspect, because there's not much there. I would look for a motion to pay the bills.
I move, Tom.
Thank you, Tom. Are you a second?
I'll second, Cheryl.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. Also, as a tab, an additional tab in that spreadsheet, you find the deposits that were collected, which three of the primary deposits for the IDA were rental payments, and one was a loan payment, as you can see there. And then there was the annual bond fee payment from Bassett recorded for the CRC. So good information there. We do not have sets of financials, correct, Megan? We didn't get the.
Yeah, that's correct. Jim wasn't able to come before this meeting, so I'll have Jim's financial reports at the July board meeting.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I did read that, so thank you. Jody, this is your budget, ongoing budget. Do you have any commentary, thoughts, or anything new that we should be discussing?
Well, there is one. I was reviewing this morning. I've got to check on the payments that were done for Alpine Roofing for the soccer field concession stand. I don't show that being expended yet. I believe we issued it. But other than that, we seem to be in pretty good shape right now. We're about breaking even the first 6 months. So there's really nothing out of the ordinary. The only other thing is that there was a $1,500 charge for the audit. I think it's for the portion of the IDA audit, the Rail Yard Local Development Corporation. Probably we're going to have to check with Jim on that. It may have to do a journal entry to charge it back to the Rail Yard Corporation.
Just to get it posted to the correct P&L, right?
Right.
All right, thank you, Jody. Any questions or for Jody or with respect to the budget from anyone? All right, thank you. New business. Obviously, we've got a marketing item on the agenda. So, Jody or Megan, do you want to discuss the RFP or proposals?
Go ahead, Megan.
I thought that we were going to discuss the proposals in the projects meeting. This was really more so just to talk if we wanted to hire Chris from Vibrant Brands to help us kind of guide us through this process of marketing the county. So if you want to talk about the proposals, we can talk about them too. But
Yeah, no, really what we wanted to discuss was hiring Chris from Vibrant Brand. He had given us a proposal for about $2,500 to keep with us and provide technical assistance, review the application, and make sure that the consultant's working expeditiously for our needs. He would stay on for the entire year.
I need some clarity. My expertise is not up to speed here. What we're trying to hire Chris, is you looking for Chris to be like a project manager for us to manage the process of the RFPs and the marketing campaign going forward?
That's pretty much it, yes.
Well, if I could speak, it's not your expertise. It's not mine either to take on a marketing plan, for a city of 8 million people and try to figure. I mean, spending money won't be hard. Spending it effectively is a challenge, and I do have great faith that Chris could make sure. I don't know. Reading over the proposals, a couple of them were real interesting. A couple of them scared me to death for what marketing I've done. But it's an arena that I'm not. That it's in flux continually. Always will be. I'm not up to speed on the best ways to do it. And in my business, I would find someone that I've done business with and I trust to help me make a better decision, a better investment. So my 2 cents is worth what you paid for it, not much.
So did we get a proposal from Chris or some kind of outline? I apologize if you sent it out. I didn't see anything on it.
We're still waiting for a detailed proposal from him, but he's given us the figure of $1,500. We're hoping to have that for the board in 2 weeks.
Jody, I apologize. I'm getting horrible feedback. I can't understand a word you're saying.
Okay, I said that we're waiting for a detailed proposal from him, but he's given us an estimate of about $2,500, and we hope to have his proposal before the next board meeting in 2 weeks.
Okay, so is it your intent to get a proposal from him and supply it?
Yes.
To the board? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I think we should take a look at the proposal, and I don't disagree with what Tom's saying. Certainly the expertise and what we're trying to accomplish is nothing that I have the expertise for, and I'm sure most of us are limited. But so I guess we'll look forward to a detailed proposal from him.
So I guess my question is, are you looking for a recommendation or a vote from this committee to take to the board before we have the proposal? Or, because we did discuss this last time as well with essentially the same information. So I guess, what are you looking for today?
Well, I would be looking for a recommendation from the Finance Committee to recommend spending up to $2,500 to use Vibrant.
And their role would be overseeing the entire process, overseeing from the RFPs onward. What's there? I mean, they're wonderful. All those people are wonderful, but I'm confused about their role. Sorry if I missed that before.
If I may say, I was involved when he spoke to the group. He said he would read through the proposals, talk us through the good and the bad of each one of them, and then keep in touch and monitor what they were doing, to make sure the execution, and also make sure that the bulk of the money wasn't spent on producing a spot that's going to wow you the bulk of the money spent on actual solicitation of targeted audience, things that he seemed to understand pretty well. That's what our conversation was with our committee.
Right, he's already provided us with a template for the original RFP that we sent out for marketing firms. And he's also set the parameters for how much, you know, the creativity portion of it should be about 10,000. The balance of it, the bulk of it, should be spent on actually media campaigns, not on hiring a firm to do additional.
Thank you.
Josh Edmonds, I'm on phone here. I read through the proposals and I thought they were pretty good. There's definitely some differences between them. There was one that I thought might not be a great fit for us. It might have been Golden Shovel. It just didn't really seem to mesh with exactly what we were looking to do. But the proposals outlined pretty clearly how much was being spent on design development and how much would be spent on actually paying for, you know, Google, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. And pretty much once we get to that point, you know, the expenditures are pretty set. And I do agree that, you know, 10,000 is a good number for developing the ad. And then the remainder is really where the work is done in putting it out there and kind of how they target those audiences. And the proposals had a couple different ideas in terms of that. I think that it might make sense. I don't know, Chris, who you're referring to, and I don't have a strong opinion one way or another, but I think it probably matters which group we pick, and you'd probably want to make sure that group is interested in having a third party involved in the process. I think some of the groups could probably pretty easily fill Chris's role and do a good job communicating to us and advising us. So I think it kind of depends on which proposal we're leaning towards.
Yeah, this is Cheryl, and that's where I guess I was going last time we discussed it. It's, again, most of the marketing firms I've ever worked with have a role within the marketing firm that plays that. So that was where I was getting a little confused with what Chris's role would be. I could totally understand if you're looking for him to be essentially a project manager, because if you guys are saying you don't have the expertise, I can definitely support that for a role. Where he would be connecting with those firms. He'd essentially be acting as an Otsego Now employee, if you will, working with those firms on reviewing the success metrics throughout the campaign, working with the firm to make any adjustments necessary if something is not having the success or hitting the targets intended. So if that's what you're looking to do with him, I can definitely support that. But as Josh said, once you've got the campaign set, it's really just executing it. So that's where I get a little fuzzy in terms of what you'd be looking for from Chris.
I think your summary of the project manager portion that you just described is what we're looking for Chris to do.
I would support that then.
Yeah, I also would support a project manager type role. You know, I think that is a gap. I mean, I think that's the reason people use consultants. I mean, you know, to carry on, to help fill, you know, an area of expertise that an organization doesn't have it in place. And I definitely would say we looking at, you know, kind of knowing a little bit of the history of Otsego Now's previous marketing efforts. It seems like maybe someone in this role would seem to be very helpful to the organization, because it's not a traditional activity of Otsego Now. So I think this time around, with what we're trying to do being very targeted and specific, it seems like, you know, it would come down to the proposal, I think, but giving Jody the flexibility of up to 2,500 to you know, to make that decision seems, yeah, I'm in agreement with that.
Do we need a motion to do this at this point? Is that where we are?
No, we just wanted really to apprise the finance committee that we were going to bring this up to the full board in 2 weeks.
Okay.
A quick question, Jody. Does this trigger, and excuse how I might phrase this, but does this trigger any other type of, it kind of feels like you're going down a rat hole, because does this trigger another, you got to find 3 vendors to provide the service for, the project manager to then look at RFPs from other vendors? You know what I'm saying?
And Kurt can chime in on this as well, but my viewpoint is that this is a professional service contract that we don't have to necessarily go out for proposals for. It's under our bid limit, which is, I think for professional services is under $25,000. So we wouldn't have to go out through our normal bid process on it.
Okay. Kurt, you're
Yeah,
with that?
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you've informed us, and you'll be taking a proposal to the board. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you're not looking for a motion. You're just informing us.
Right.
All right. All right. Thank you. And it looks like that's it on the audit and finance agenda. So I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Dave. A second?
I'll second, Cheryl.
Thanks, Cheryl. All those in favor?
Nice.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. We're adjourned.
All right, so moving into the projects committee. Hope everyone had a wonderful 4th. I know here in Oneonta, while you guys may have liked the rain, I think we had a bit of a touchdown tornado here. So we are dealing with some swath of no power and trees down. So hope everyone enjoyed the 4th though. Looking at the project committee meeting minutes from June 11th, are there any questions or concerns with them? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
I think we had both Jeffs there. Thank you, guys. Taking a look at the project charters, I didn't see a ton of activity in any of them, Jody, but if you want to walk through and highlight anything that you want to pull out, it looks like Custom has a lot of partnerships brewing, which is great for them. But again, a lot of that seems to be on hold for COVID. So, Jody, I don't know if there's any highlights you have for the Custom Electronics charter.
Yeah, the biggest thing on the Custom Electronics is that they've hired 50 employees, so they met their quota for the small cities grant. So even if we stop that project right now, it would be 100% complete. They've made their 50 jobs. We've given out 40% of the total expenditures using community development funds, so we're within the range that small cities requires. And I had discussions with staff from the Homes and Community Renewal Agency, and they said they would entertain and approve a request for an extension of time for another 8 months if we request it in August, because they understand that all manufacturing slowed down in the last 3 or 4 months. So that's kind of the highlight with that. We're on track. Also with Customs, that he started renovating his other facility on Winnie Hill Road, and that's now underway, which was part of the actual plan for this. So the project is actually well ahead of what we had thought. I didn't think he was going to make 50 employees, but he proved me wrong. With that, I'll turn over and look at Richfield Springs. The big issue with Richfield Springs is that.
Jody?
Yes.
I just want to mention that it was striking to me the number of potential cooperative agreements and contracts that Mike has that are on hold or suspended because of COVID-19. Did anybody notice that as you read through it?
Yeah, that's what I meant when he has a lot of partnerships going on.
Yeah, it just reminded me of the impact, that it's had. It was incredible.
And a lot of it has to do with not being able to meet in person.
Right.
A lot of the discussions that are had with these various companies, one major issue is in Mexico right now. There's no travel into the country, so that really slows down the way business happens. I guess on the bright side, one of the companies they've been doing business with is a company called Brightspot. And I just received an email this morning that Brightspot is actually working with theaters and Broadway to bring backstage decontamination technology to them to open up Broadway shows, at least to the players, not to necessarily to the public. But they are looking at the possibility of doing online Broadway shows again and videotaping them. So that's one of the technologies that they've been working with Custom on.
Thanks, Jody.
Yep. The big issue on the Richfield Springs Industrial Park is our application was selected through EDA's competitive application review process to take it to the next level. So the reason that is really important is that Richfield Springs, the town itself does not qualify for EDA funding. And we had to justify why there are other justifications through the criteria that allows it to be considered, and they agreed with our determination. So we're actually extremely pleased about that. And now it's in for a full review for future funding for this year. So that's the big news on that one. And really not
Sorry,
that.
Jody, what is the timeline on that again?
We were hoping to have approval by the end of the summer, and then looking at designs over the winter and into the spring, and actually construction next year.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And really, we're just waiting to finish up the report on the master plan with MRB is doing. That's really the only movement on the rail yards at this present time.
Does anyone have any questions on any of the project charters? Okay, in the director's report, Jody, I don't know if there's any highlights you have in there you'd like to discuss.
Really quickly, the Oneonta Business Park, we've been requested by the county planning office to whether we would consider another site location in the business park for their bus turnaround, drop off and pick up. Apparently, a number of years ago, there was an informal agreement between the IDA director and county planning to pave a portion of one of our lots and allow that lot to be used as a county bus drop-off spot. There is no formal agreement though. And that's the property that we intend to sell to the Catskill halal meat processing facility. So we're going to come back and recommend probably another location that the county can pay for a future bus turnaround. Obviously, the big news is with IOXIS. They've sent an email saying that they were keeping their operations open in Oneonta. We have now also sent him an email yesterday regarding community development block grant funds, which would be the next application process that we'd be going through on their behalf. They've identified a program called the Global New York Grant Program, which would provide a grant of up to $25,000 to help with their marketing and participation in export markets in Europe. one of the issues on that grant program, and I probably am going to reach out to Senator Seward's staff, is that there's a clause in that grant requirement that the business must be profitable. And in talking with Amy, their controller, they have apparently not been profitable for the last number of years. Now, obviously, our discussions with Mr. Johnson, and the reason he's investing monies into this is to make it profitable. So there becomes a technical issue whether they can apply or not. So we thought we would reach out to the senator's staff and see if they could talk to the state about the intent of that. We've also been working with the county on their emergency forgivable loan program. To date, I think, Megan, we've received 16 applications. Both of us reviewed them independently, and amazingly, Megan and I came up with roughly the same scores on all of them. We had a meeting on Tuesday with the county's IGA committee, briefly reviewed them with them. Their recommendation is to take anybody who's received grant funds in the past and put them on the bottom of the list, and look at new applications first. So we'll be discussing that and hopefully having the IGA make a determination as to which applications they want to receive at next month's meeting. And that's pretty much it.
Jody, I know obviously great news around Ioxis, but I guess my question is we had another potential interested tenant in a building of that size, and I was just curious if we have any other offerings to provide that potential tenant. I know it wasn't definite, but just wondering if we had anything else to offer them.
No, we sent them requested additional information on the building, which we sent to them mid last week. So we're still waiting to get back whether they're still interested in that building. One of the other things with that company is that they were also looking for open space to build a new building. So we suggested both the Oneonta Rail Yards and the Oneonta Business Park that we have sites that are available for building a new building if they choose to do that. So we're still waiting. The site selection company has been very secretive as to who they are, but they have still shown an interest as of last week. And we did inform Empire State Development that that site, the I-Axis building, is still on the table for them to consider, because until they sign a agreement to purchase, we want to keep all options open.
Okay, thank you, Jody.
Yep.
Jody, can you remind me what was the total amount that the county allocated to the grant program?
That the county allocated?
Yeah, the micro enterprise program you're working on right now. What was the total?
The total amount available for giving out as grants is $195,000.
195,000. Okay. Yeah, and the requests are like 430,000.
Yes. Now, a number of those are for businesses that have open development grants, and so some of those are easily going to be just off.
Okay. What those ratings? Yeah, obviously IGA saw the general rating sheets, but we never saw any of the applications, right? Which I don't think IGA should, but that's correct, right? We never saw those applications.
That's correct, and part of the reason is that we're not sure that the court wants to read through 16 applications.
No, trust me, I totally I think the rating information and that suggestion that came up at IGA of moving those down to the bottom that received funding previously makes perfect sense. So I just clarifying.
Yeah, and one of the other difficulties that Megan and I are going through right now on that is that the state will require various information to be included in the application, and so we're going back through the application. some of the applications was just an application. They didn't include this plan to include corporate or personal financial statements or taxes. And so those businesses that can't supply that or won't supply that, those will also have to drop off, because when the state comes in, they'll indicate that they can't reimburse for this because it wasn't enough documentation. So it's a lot of that documentation that is a pain to go through, but it's required under the program.
And Andrew, that was Karen's suggestion that we just do summaries for the IGA committee so that you have them for the month. But if there's any applications that you want to see between your meeting the other day and your next meeting in August, you're obviously, I'll send them over to you guys.
No, I don't think so. That request didn't come up for anyone else at IGA, and I definitely don't feel it's necessary to see those applications. My only and I didn't really raise this at IGA, but my only question is like if we're waiting till the IGA, and IGA obviously already met, we're only meeting once a month, so now it's waiting to the next IGA committee meeting, which puts it on the possible approval by I assume the board has to approve it by resolution, which if we don't have a mid-month meeting in August, then it's not going to happen until September. So this process got pretty drawn out.
I think that me and Jody, from what I got from the IGA committee, was that me and Jody would kind of make the recommendations. And if you want, we could do that between your August IGA meeting and send that out just like we did before this meeting. That way you guys have time to review. And then I don't know how the IGA would meet before that, but.
Yeah, the one thing I would just throw out is that, and maybe it's reaching out to Karen and Meg, and maybe I could send them both an email and include you both, but I'm just wondering if you had your recommendations in order. I haven't heard yet if we're going to definitely have a mid-month meeting for July, but it would be possible for IGA to meet right before, or essentially before our board meeting in August, and then admin could meet to approve it, or there's a couple options here. I think it would be great if we could try to bring this to the August meeting for the board to approve. That's just my quick thought.
Great.
Megan and I can be ready to finish this up by next week.
Yeah, that's great. Let me send an email, and just connect us all, and we'll see what Meg and Karen say.
Okay. I would actually prefer that it would be done before Karen leaves.
Yeah, that would be positive to do before Karen leaves. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and she's done. She'll be at the admin meeting. I think that's her. Yeah, she won't be at the August board meeting, I don't believe. So, yeah.
Jody, this is Craig. Doesn't that micro enterprise, don't they want to keep that separate from the politics side of it? I don't remember it when I ran the one up. I ran two of them when I was up there, and we had to set a separate committee that approved the applications that had no input from when I was head of IGA or the board. I don't even think it has to go through the board, does it? Because it's a state thing. I don't think it has to be approved. I think it's just approved through a separate committee, because usually I think the committee had to have a minimum of 10 people in the community and county. And maybe it changed.
I think what happened when the pandemic happened, and there was a request from the county to the state to amend the application to be able to provide emergency assistance. As part of that process, Karen wrote into the revised policies or the revised application that the IGA committee would be the ultimate approval of the projects.
I think also
it may not
just for Andrew's sense, for speed wise, that's why I was saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll double check on that. It may not even have to have full county board approval. It may be just.
Yeah, that may be true. I'm trying to remember the last micro enterprise that was for agricultural businesses. IGA committee ended up reviewing those proposals and then voting on them. I don't remember if those went to the full board or not for approval, but IGA committee has been voting on like reallocating other state funding monies to other projects. And so I think maybe we can get away with just IGA committee voting on this, but I'll ask that question in that email too, Jody.
Okay.
Okay, great. Anyone have anything else you'd like to discuss from the director's report?
This is Jeff. I just have two questions. One related to this program you're talking about for the loan program that you're administering in the IGA, et cetera. Just generally, I don't want to get into the weeds, but generally, what types of businesses are applying for that program? And then I got a totally unrelated question back to IOCCRC. So if you want to answer that one, I'll go to IOCCRC.
Okay. Well, Megan, why don't you explain that? The types of business.
The types of businesses that have applied right now are all businesses with 5 employees or less. They're almost all of them are existing businesses that stayed open during the pandemic. Most of them are outside of the city of Oneonta, but I think there's 6 of them in the city of Oneonta. So we have been working with Judy Pangman to make sure there's no crossovers. So if the city of Oneonta business applied through the city of Oneonta's micro enterprise, then we're obviously not going to fund them on this program. So if the board or the committee wants to see the summary applications that I sent to the IGA committee, I'd be happy to send them out so you can see who applied as well.
No, that wasn't. No. I was just curious if it was a retail, if it was, what the makeup of the type of.
They're mainly like boutiques,
yeah.
Small gift shops, a couple of restaurants. There's one that's an attorney fee, one hotel, one attorney, one
payroll service.
Okay.
But they're all small firms.
All right, great. Then IOCCRC back. This is just a curiosity question. You were talking about the qualification for the grant and about profitability, et cetera. I haven't seen, and we obviously don't have a contract. What is the makeup of the entity that's purchasing IOCCRC? Are they buying the name? Is it a totally different entity that's acquiring the assets? Do you know the structure of? Is it going to be a new company so that you're going to have a challenge in showing any history? I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, that's actually the information I requested from Scotty yesterday was the financials and the structure, because I'll need that for a small cities application. My understanding is that the company in Tennessee actually is purchasing the assets. They are keeping the name IOCCRC, but they are not. That becomes a big question as to whether IOCCRC is actually staying in business or not. My understanding originally was that it was not, because they didn't want to assume any liabilities associated with the company.
Right, of course.
May or may not know. So that is a key question right now that we're trying to get an answer for.
Okay, just curious. Thank you.
And also, and this is one of those big dilemmas for our staff, is that, and that's why we're holding to, we want the full purchase price of the IOCCRC building, what the appraised value is for, because ultimately he's got to turn over his business financial information and his personal tax information to us for us to apply for small cities. So we get to see financially how strong the company that's actually acquiring the assets are, which makes negotiating on the other end for a building sale or even a lease payment more difficult.
Well, certainly good to know if you're going to carry paper.
Yes. So those emails went out yesterday. I haven't gotten a response back from them yet.
Okay.
Anyone else with anything else? Okay, we'll move into the new and unfinished business. I know we've already in the finance committee talked a little bit about the marketing proposals. I don't know what more you want to discuss, because I guess my understanding would be essentially this is where you'd be looking for your consultant to guide you through those proposals, but open up the floor to anyone that has any input on those proposals, questions for Jody and Megan. Jody or Megan, do you have any input on those? Again, what were you looking for from us today in regards to those?
Well, I think one of the things is that we're going to be narrowing it down and asking at least 2 of the 3 to do video presentations to us in the next week or so, to get a better idea. Each of them have their strengths. Each of them have their weaknesses. And it appears that at least one of them, while it looks like an excellent proposal, it looks like it's pretty much a cookie cutter that they've used for other places, that they've just changed the name and put ours on it and sent it to us. So we do have
except for the place, except where they forgot to change the name.
I'm sorry?
Except for where they forgot to change the name. It's got to be
Yes.
that giveaway, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, my quick input in reviewing them, there's definitely some that are more specific to what I think we were targeting versus more of a broad brushing, like true year-long digital strategy and marketing plan. So I think whatever you do as you're reviewing these is being very clear on what our objective is and what we're trying to achieve. And I think from the last meeting, what we discussed was really about something that we can get out there quickly and start executing on, within the next month.
But when we do set up the video interviews, video presentations, I'll talk to Megan, but we'll probably invite any of the board members that want to sit in on those. Would be certainly welcome, because this is a real new initiative for our agency.
So is this going to result? Go ahead, Jeff. Sorry.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I would assume that you're going to, even though we may not formally have an agreement, you'd be asking the project manager individual to attend as well.
Yes.
Okay.
My caution would be, and I've been through this in the last 5 years, is going with a national firm with all the quote expertise in automotive marketing, and I went backwards from the previous local regional who understood our market and how to communicate with people here. So to me, a boilerplate program, just imprint it here, and it's going to work like it would in Houston. We need someone who's more individual to this particular challenge, which I think is rather immense to with that many people as a target audience, and then a sparsely populated region without some of the services that are essential. Figuring out how to match that is more than a simple challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And P.S. there's got to be mostly substance and not fluff and feel good. I mean, if business is going to move here, it's got to work. And so marketing the happy days are here again isn't enough. I don't think, for somebody to spend money.
Yeah, I think that's where the project manager would come into play, quite honestly.
Yeah.
It would be holding them to the success metrics that they would set together and jointly and monitoring them along the way.
Correct.
So Jody, is the intention to have a board decision at the end of the month on this?
Yes.
Okay, great. I would just add that I don't think their marketing happy days are here again in Houston at the moment. So.
Correct.
Okay. Any other thoughts or input on the marketing proposals? Okay, so I think if when you have those narrowed down and you are setting up some in-face or web demos, if you will. Reach out to the committees and board and just let us know. So whoever wants to attend can attend. And we'll have hopefully a recommendation for the board. Anything else today anyone has?
Not a thing.
All right, if not,
At our next board meeting, it is likely that we'll be having an executive session. So there may be actually two video information that we'll send to you. It has to do with another company that's looking at a potential expansion. And we'd like to discuss that with the board in executive session.
Great.
Did
at
we,
board meeting, we also have the MRB group presenting as well, correct?
Yes.
was
Go
it,
ahead,
was it,
Andrew.
also, was there an update on the partnership around the Community Foundation of Otsego County and how that's moving forward, or what the?
Well, one of the things that we have to finalize is we have to have an agreement with the Cooperstown Foundation in order to receive the money. So I'll draft that probably today or tomorrow and send it. We were also initially waiting for the County Otsego Community Foundation wanted to issue a press release before we took anything action. And so I just got an email from the president saying, well, we have a check waiting for you. And I'm like, well, I thought you guys were going to make some announcement before we did anything. So we'll move ahead with that. The other thing that both Megan and I have been working on, Megan attended a video conference webinar yesterday, are the legal ramifications of grant programs from IDAs. Unfortunately, they didn't really discuss any of the legal ramifications. It was basically 5 attorneys bashing the state's program. But I think we have a good handle as to what our requirements are going to be with the controller's office as far as documentation of how we award grants. So we're in pretty much agreement to move ahead with this expeditiously as soon as we get a contract with the Cooperstown Foundation.
Great.
Okay, any other new business? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, anyone?
Second.
All right, thanks, Tom. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Okay, you too, Cheryl. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a great day.